It's the Human First AI Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague. My guest this week is Emanuel Rose. You can find him at emanuelrose.com. Keeping it pretty easy. He's the founder of Strategic eMarketing, an author of many books, everything from internet marketing to children's books, a ton of stuff on Amazon that's really cool. But what we're going to be talking about is authentic marketing in the age of AI. Welcome to the podcast, Emanuel. What's happening?
Thanks so much, Mike. I'm really pleased to be here, and it's a cold, wet day here in Northern California, so I'm just trying to stay warm and keep a good mood.
Yeah, same. It's going around this time of year, right?
Yeah.
And I should say also, before we get too far, that you have a podcast, Marketing in the Age of AI, that I was a guest on. We have no idea what order people are going to watch these in or find them and they'll air. So if you haven't checked out his podcast, check that out here wherever you're watching or listening to this one, Marketing in the Age of AI, and you can find me as a guest on there either soon or previously in the backlog.
That's right.
This is the Human First AI Marketing Podcast. I want to ask you about the human side of things first. It seems like you've been very prolific even before ChatGPT became a thing and stuff. What made you choose thought leadership and content marketing for yourself?
I finally hit the stage of my career where I felt like I had seen enough of the cycles to have some comments that would provide valuable leadership. So I started in business and real in earnest when I was about 19, and so it's been over 30 years, and it's seen a lot of the ups and downs, and made all the marketing and sales mistakes that somebody can make, right? Mm-hmm. Probably read 500 books on marketing and sales, and then realized, oh yeah, I'm seeing the mistakes that everybody talked about in all the books I read and that I made myself. And so there's a space there to help support and mentor young business owners, young marketers. So that was
I love that, and I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to this book. I'm gonna have to dive into it because I think it's a big hairy question that's definitely worth a book, but also for this podcast, authenticity in the world where everything can be fake feels like a valuable commodity. So what made you, I think you were talking about authenticity maybe even before, everything took off too, based on what I'm seeing online. But it's a big question. How do we balance authenticity with all of these AI tools that help us kind of automate everything as well?
Well, the seduction of the software that we have now for marketing is to just plug and play and spray and pray, right? And it really removes the human part out of all the content that gets produced. So I saw this on the horizon, probably 5 years ago. There's been trade groups that had started in for marketing, and you're probably familiar with them. This has been gurgling and bubbling for a long time. We all love the automation part. I think as small brands, those of us who are not Fortune 1000 companies, our unique sales proposition is the person that either founded or is running the business. And that's the magnetism that will produce attention in the marketplace. And if we stray too far from that fundamental magnetism, then we just get lost in the sea of noise.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that we were seeing a big proliferation or expansion of content over the last 5-10 years anyway, but we kind of hit the peak wave with ChatGPT about 2 years ago, where it's like now you can make anything, you can make it cheap. And so we're seeing this huge push to just produce content, and you can make stuff faster than you can read it or watch it. at this point, which is kind of insane. I don't think anywhere in human history we've been able to produce collectively more on the internet or more videos uploaded to YouTube in a day than you could watch in a lifetime.
Sure.
But now a single person can produce more video than they can themselves watch.
Yeah.
It feels like a whole nother level. So I guess, what are some of the authentic ways we can use these tools then, or how can we use it to express our voice in a way that's healthy and beneficial for our audience and our business?
Well, the first thing is to become a content curator, and inside the space that you're a subject matter expert in, to identify the voices that are pure and authentic and telling good stories and grounded stories. So that's the first thing. We want to curate good content so that it's valuable to our target markets and our customers. After that, I think what you and I are doing right here is having a conversation, which we'll both take. We'll post a video, we'll transcript it, we'll make LinkedIn posts and Instagram posts, and that process of having this conversation, thinking together, extrapolating, telling stories from the past. These are things that expose who we are as people, and that allows other people to attach to it. So in 2025, it's almost mandatory that you have that you're at least a podcast guest, and really smart, forward-thinking people are going to start a podcast in 2025 if they haven't already.
Yeah, I agree. And really, that's what I help people with at Avenue 9. And that's the human first part of our process is if I interview you, and whether it goes public or not, if you don't want to be a public figure, interview your best salesperson, your best client, and interview, people that you network with, your vendors, and create messages for your channel that you can use. That's what I think is cool. That's changed in the last 2 years also is that with the cost of content dropping so low, you can make anything now for anyone, and it doesn't have to be for a large audience. You don't have to get 100,000 followers to make the YouTube channel worth it. It could be a YouTube channel for one person.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Vlog Brothers?
No, I don't know.
They do
those
happen
guys.
to have millions of followers, but Hank Green and his brother, I think it's Steven, make videos back and forth to each other, and they alternate days, and they make videos back and forth of vlogs and topics and things that they've learned, and it's really cool. But millions of people happen to watch, but that could just be for you. It could just be for you and your sales team. You could be creating a daily vlog of what's going on with your team or your marketplace or with your clients, and starting these conversations, I think, in an authentic way becomes really cool. So I'm hopeful that this is the trend. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on, maybe it's the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI as we go forward. But for me, I think what you said about curating is that we're going to need authentic voices and humans that we trust to kind of filter stuff for us, and maybe some AI tools mixed in there too to separate out, misinformation and advertisements from what we're really trying to learn. But I see people going back to groups. If the internet gets crowded and there's so much noise and very little signal, it's like, well, I know this group that I get together with, whether it's online or in person, like these 10 people, we can help each other sort that out. We can curate and create. So that's my optimistic, hopeful view of the future. What's yours, and what do you think the chances are of that?
Well, I think that follows a very long-term human capacity, right? Like the size of a human group is usually 10 to 25 people. And we know that Gen Z, they're really into user-generated content, and they're really into asking their peer group for recommendations more so than search engine searching, right? So I think that part's accurate. I think right now our appetite for having our data transmitted and used by marketing is still not as deep as the data that we have, right? For instance, we could have a Minority Report culture already where I walk into the grocery store and they scan my eyes. They know what I've bought, not just in that store, but based on my credit card receipts for the last 15 years.
Basically, yeah.
So we have all that. We have all that data. we're not allowed to use it. And I think that's a yet, because I think over time we will get more numb to those types of automatic marketing, automatic sales generated by the computer. So I really do believe that there will be a minority report situation probably within the next 20 years where they're scanning our biometrics, and a lot of things are happening from that.
Let's talk tools for a little bit, because I think
Sure.
there's over like 15,000 of them out there.
Oh, just today, I think there was 15,000 new ones.
Well, that's exactly my number is a little bit old. So I guess there's two ways to think about this. One is sort of which model do you like the best, and two is sort of what are some of those maybe micro tools or things that you use on a regular basis, especially as a marketer.
Yeah. The interesting thing with the tools is, number one, that you want to make sure that you have a very specific challenge or breakdown that you're looking to solve, right? So that's the first thing. And I'm a guy that I prefer Claude over Chat. I think it's a little more circumspect and professional. And then my favorite though is Perplexity, because it actually brings in citations, and so you can track down where it's getting the information that it's then generating the content from. And that, as we know, is super critical, because the hallucinations in the LLMs are still prevalent. So we use a lot of stuff, obviously a lot of video stuff like you do. I use a product called Clipscribe, which is a video clipper and titler. Opus Clips, of course, we use that. And then literally, I just sent an email to my project manager today. I said, hey, it's time that we look for a replacement for Zapier, because it's getting more and more expensive, and all the things that happens from legacy software, which is funny that Zap is a legacy software now. And there's 10 alternatives that are half as expensive and 3 times as dynamic. So the level of automation that we're going to see in the next 3 years for mundane tasks is pretty phenomenal. And those are the tools that I'm really looking for, more than creative or creation tools, because I believe me as the human driving content, the spark should come from me. But anything that's mundane or repetitive, that should get replaced by software.
Yeah, I love what you said about the spark or the magic. You got to keep that in your business, and I think you have to evaluate what your business is and what is that magic, and figure that out first. And don't try to automate that or replicate that. But how do you automate everything else so that you can do more of that is huge. You brought up some really great points there, because I think for tools, I heard this from a marketing leader, head of global brand and strategy yesterday. And she said one of the legacy softwares wanted to raise their price $30,000 for this enterprise software. And I just said, do they not realize that every other tool is baking these into stuff that we already have in our CRM, or there's a new tool for $20 a month that does the same thing that they're doing? I think we're past those days, and it sounds like you agree that you probably shouldn't get hung up on tools or building your business around a certain system, even if it's a CRM system or a Zapier or something else. I think you need to be flexible these days and willing to try new stuff, because it's going to change so fast here before things settle out, and things keep getting bought and changed and go out of business or replaced or then given away for free, like with Notebook LM. And you're like, oh, well, I was paying for a tool that did that. Now it's free today, so I better go switch over there.
Yeah. And if you let's just say AI voice, right? Like every business should be looking at how to lever AI voice right now, today, starting this minute. I just saw a phenomenal tool that was a $70 one-time purchase that is a inbound, outbound AI voice tool that sounds perfect. 3 months ago, that would have been a $5,000 plus $1,000 a month, blah, blah, blah. So that's an area where, especially if you're a retail or your service, where you have to have even business hour communications, but especially 24/7 communication. The AI voice agent is a spot where you can invest 10 hours a time from your team and basically manage a full-time equivalent outcome for a very small amount of money now.
Yeah, I've seen that with chatbots and stuff too. There's a really cool one that's like $100 a month, and you can load up basically like a custom wiki or a custom GPT where it has maybe all of your product knowledge base or all your customer service questions, and you could load up, whatever, all the books you've written, and you could have the Emanuel, and we could all ask you expert questions, and it would generate the answers. And there's this cool slider which will determine its creativity. So if you put it over to 100, it'll hallucinate and do exactly what ChatGPT does and make up answers. Or you can slide it all the way to 0, and it'll be like, no, if it's not in these documentations we're provided, say, sorry, I don't have that information.
Oh, nice.
And that's really valuable. Think about HR documents or internal things where there's just a ton of policies, or you have maybe a wholesaler or something where you have thousands of products and nuts and bolts, and you need to query this database like for $100 a month. Think of the amount of time and energy that could save you or your clients and your team.
Yeah, and then you're able to reallocate the time from that person who was doing that kind of work into something that's forward thinking or creative, or next quarter's challenges.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit about the wider state of marketing, and then we'll talk maybe about the future of AI. But marketing in the age of AI is the name of your podcast, and I think it's going to be a unique challenge. We've hit a few things already, but I can see it going one of two ways. I think it's going to be really hard. If I was in software or something, I would be looking for another business, because I don't know how you compete with these large models, and they're spending billions of dollars and getting trillions of inputs and things. It feels out of reach for most small businesses. But at the same time, I see AI as sort of democratizing marketing, that anybody can create anything now. We just said all the costs of these tools have dropped. So the question kind of becomes, how good of a marketer are you?
Yeah.
If every company can start a YouTube channel, who can be the one that can connect with an audience, have something to say, be unique in a way that stands out and cut through the signal? I don't think it has to be a big production company anymore. I think it can be pretty small. So I see a lot of fluctuation, but I also see a lot of sort of maybe polar contradictions that are going to, I think, split into two groups. I think people in the middle are going to get stuck, or some people are going to get left out. But if you're a big Fortune 500 company, great. You can afford to play and figure it out. If you're a small company, I think you got to learn how to get ahead of your competition really fast now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the beauty is that the LLMs will be your Fortune 500 consultant. So it really comes down to prompt writing and starting to dig into these challenges with very clear prompts, asking for very specific feedback and applications and messaging. So, the fundamentals of marketing are problem, solution, call to action. And we have to understand who our ideal client is, what their primary breakdowns are, and then we can speak to the problem, the solution, and the call to action. Yeah. And so the simplicity of marketing is really the challenge, right? And what we're seeing is tons and tons and tons of bad marketing. I get 1,000 emails a day of discount, 50% off, buy 2 for 1 from companies that don't even have any headline, subhead, and value proposition. I'm like, I don't care about your saving. You're saving me 50%. I don't even know what the product is. So we have to stay focused on who's that ideal client, what's their problem, what am I solving for them, and then making them a good offer for trial, so that the value and the risk reversal is there, and then that it leads through the progression of becoming a type A best client that becomes a brand advocate, and those fundamentals are unchanged, whether it's the Stone Age or in Minority Report.
What do you think about reaching the audience, though? Because I think we've all been kind of seduced over the last 40 years that, and maybe even longer, really, when we look back at like, okay, radio is the channel. We get on radio, we can
Right.
reach everybody. TV is
Yeah.
the channel, and then the internet. If you just build it, they will come. You can get SEO, and then social media. If we build up an audience or we post enough here, we can reach people we haven't met. Now I feel like and maybe I'm kind of cutting edge here too, so feel free to tell me if the world is behind what I'm seeing, but I think everybody knows about pay-per-click ads. I think if you're a local plumber or something,
Right.
or
Yeah.
small business, it's like, it's too expensive. Why would you give Google all the money? Because in this auction system, like, they're gonna take all the profit. So
Yeah.
you spend $1,000 on ads for a $500 plumbing job, like, that's not gonna work for your company. So are there any new channels or ways that we can think about growing a digital audience? Or for me, I'm kind of leaning back towards the old hand-to-hand combat. Like, we need to go meet some people. We need to show up on podcasts. We need to go out to networking events. We need to go to trade shows again, and we better start shaking hands, because nobody's finding you online anymore, is kind of my fear and or current thinking.
Well, there's still transactions that are happening by online searches, but I hear you. There's again, we've reached this giant amount of content that's out there, and it's hard for a single company to get,
Yeah.
10 leads a month or whatever. There is an amazing product called real-time search leads, which I'm able to help clients with, which is somebody does a Google search. We know that immediately. We have an automated way to then reach out to that person and send emails and do all the stuff. So that's a new technology that's really cool, and it gets in front of the pay-per-click ads. I think I agree with you that there is some hand-to-hand combat that we need to get back to, that we lost, due to the craziness with COVID and all those things.
Yeah.
And there's still direct mail, which I have used my entire career, and is still a super valuable tool to get right to people. The challenge that we have now is that there are so many channels, and this happens in every new media, right? First it was radio, and you had 2 or 3 primaries, and then they started to break it out into oldies and classical and new music and pop. And so they start to stratify, right? Because we love to stratify. Magazines used to be really easy, and then every little thing, crochet with the left hand magazine. And so you're all the way down to very, very
and
tiny
blogs and
verticals.
everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, that's a great
what
question. And I have a question for you on that, because that's kind of where I was going with this, is that I think with AI now, we can make custom content for the individual. So when you said direct mail, it immediately made me think of the cool stuff that's going on with variable data printing, and that we're putting your name on the postcard or the products that you were looking at online, and we're getting really specific to where we can market to an individual now. So even if it's not hand-to-hand combat face-to-face, it's one-to-one marketing. And I think the roles of sales and marketing have blended a lot, where you can kind of sell to multiple people, or you're selling to maybe buying teams and stuff now if you're in enterprise sales. But you're marketing to one person. You can see what that one person was searching for, that one thing they had in their cart, and you can create a blog post, a video, a follow-up email just to that one person about that one product that we've never been able to do before.
Yeah, all the way to when they log into Netflix or Amazon Prime Video, you can target that one person with one ad that's got their name in it. So the customization is really a big value for AI. I agree in terms of generating content, specifically in real-time content. We've seen that with the websites, right, where you're able to bring in
that's what I was going to say. In very short time,
instantly.
I think everyone's internet is going to be different. Like, we already see that with social media sites, where your algorithm is different than mine. If we log into Netflix, we're seeing a totally different site. Same thing on YouTube and social, but it's going to be the actual websites that
Yep.
will change, or the AI is people not even looking at websites. The AI is going to generate a custom response to every search query. That means there is no standard search results. There is no number one ranking. It's completely individual rankings for each person using the internet. It's mind-boggling about how you market in that, but I think it does go back to those fundamental principles that you were talking about, and sales and marketing tactics of we used to have to use 50 years ago when you had to find one person and pitch that one person, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's interesting, and it brings up that whole idea of the generative engine optimization, right? This idea of
Yeah.
GEO, where you're bringing your content into bite-sized chunks and different patterns that match what the generative engines are looking for, and then that that search is fundamentally changed now that we have tools like Perplexity and ChatGPT.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want you to put on your psychic hat here, or your prediction machine, fire that
Yeah.
thing up. And if we looked out at least 5 years, so we'll say at least 2030, but 5 to 15 years from now, what do you see marketing looking like?
Well, I think it will be a fully customized experience, like you're talking about, and that the they'll know that on the technology will know that on days when it rains, I usually buy sushi, and so I'll immediately start to get that in my feed as soon as I wake up and log in to whatever it is, and that
We shouldn't have recorded before lunch. That's what you're telling me.
this whole thing is that the magic of AI is the dynamism of the data that they're able to pull in, right? There's as many as 15,000 data points right now on each person. And then you add that into cultural phenomena and the weather and the time of the year. And so, and then our spending habits that have been tracked on debit card and credit card, for some of us our entire lives, others of us just in the recent times, but there's patterns and behaviors that exist for all of us. And I think, like I was saying earlier, that our reluctance to accept that type of marketing is gonna fade. We're gonna get jaded to that over time, and some of it will help us, right? Well, it'll serve us in a way that we want. Otherwise, it'll continue to be obtrusive and grating for things that we don't want. So I think we're what we've seen is that it slowly erodes over time because we get numb to it.
Will we get to AGI, or will there be artificial intelligence smarter than every human on the planet?
Well, I don't think so, but I know Elon Musk fears for that, and that guy knows a lot more about it than I do. So I have to cede that response to him. I think what I can control is that I want to continue to imbue all the things that I create with my creative spark and be engaged as I can with the messaging that I put out for the world. And if there is AGI or something that's computer smarter than me, I just hope I have some kind of a tool to defeat it.
Yeah, well, I think there will always be human creativity and ingenuity, and our risk taking and our empathy and our ability to sacrifice for one another and do things not in our best interest, I think is really hard to replicate in other things. There's some really cool stuff about that gives me hope. And then also I think we just they won't be interested in competing with us. So it'd be like, Michael Jordan playing basketball against kindergartners. You don't just go out there and slam all their shots in their face. It's not fun for you or them. You just don't even,
Right.
You don't even play that game. So I kind of have some hope that'll work out well for us. But as we wrap up here, I wanted to ask you maybe one question. You made me think of this customized marketing and how good it is getting that. Instagram is the one thing that I have to, I can't even go on there. Every time I open that app, I end up on an ad. They have they have shaved head razors. They have, board games that I love. There's family backyard. Every time I scroll through, I end up clicking on an ad, and I just had to uninstall it eventually. Is there a channel that gets you, or is there a marketing trick that you fall for?
Oh yeah, I mean, I actually I took the other approach. It's like when I've kind of run out of ideas and I want to find something new, I go on to Instagram because that algorithm is so good. And I usually do find some kind of a marketing tool or something else lifestyle related to engage with. But yeah, I mean, the advertising is where nobody's immune to it, but I do have a little thicker skin than most. I don't watch commercials if I'm watching a sporting event. That's one thing I refuse to accept that.
Okay, good. That's a great answer. Yeah, those two are tough for sure. All right. Wrapping up here, you have a real cool offer, an AI prompt hack that people can get. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's at emmanuelrose.com. You can find that. You can find the book, Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI and the Marketing of AI podcast. I stole all the easy ones, Emmanuel. So
All right,
how can you help
good.
us, or how can we help you? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, there's some great resources on emanuelrose.com. I've got a tool PDF too, where you can see some of these bigger websites that aggregate the AI tools. So if you need help with pay-per-click ads, or you need help with copywriting, you can find the tool, both free and paid. So love for you to go and check it out. And I appreciate the time today, Mike, and really enjoyed our conversation.
You bet. Me too. Thanks for coming on the show. And for Avenue 9, we made it pretty easy. It's avenue9.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you want to hear more conversations like this. Share it with somebody that you think needs to hear it. Give them some ideas. And until next time, go have some fun. Keep going, and we'll figure it out along the way, everybody. Have a great week.